To answer your question, Mason, I am quite excited and doing great this week as I'm prepping and getting ready for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour because it's going to be a child-free week for Jessup and I get to kick back and do adult things. And I'm just, oh boy. Now what, Mason?
That doesn't sound right.
It
But,
You said
doesn't.
a
She gets to
child-free
kick
week for
back.
you and Jessup. It may be a child-free week for Jessup, but not for you, considering you have Jessup
And
all the
what's
time.
that, Mason? You're going to get a caution too.
Speeding up, no slowing down.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 16 of season 4. Another crazy weekend weather-wise, and we did get some racing in between it all. We'll recap it all with myself, Mason, Becca, John, Jessup. How are y'all doing here on this lovely Monday evening, which, of course, beautiful out, and we don't have any racing tonight.
It is gorgeous outside, isn't it? It's like 80 degrees in Bismarck. We've had a breeze all day. So it has been breezy because as you can tell, my hair has been waving in the wind. But it has definitely been a little bit of a breezy day, but gorgeous. Not a cloud in the sky. And if you look really close, I have like one speck right here. So yeah, otherwise from that, the top over here where the toupee was at just flew right off.
One speck of hair?
So just one speck of hair. I am right
Oh, I
now as bald
remember what it's
as the
like.
animal cracker.
Yes, indeed. Jessup, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I'm good. Overall, tired, but good.
Well, you should be well rested up after last night.
Yes. Didn't get home till whatever time and had to do daddy daycare all day. And then Becca had volleyball tonight. So I had more daddy daycare and had to make sure I chauffeured Mason around Bismarck today. And it's tough. Not a lot of people can handle it. That's why John doesn't have hair. He couldn't handle it.
Mason has caused me to lose my hair.
Yep.
Hence why Jessup's wearing a hat.
Yes. It's
I
thinning.
have all this remaining luscious hair. I have a haircut tomorrow, John. That the more than one hair will be cut.
We're very happy for you.
Becca, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I'm getting super excited for mod tours. So that is coming up and kicking off this weekend. And I'm probably more excited for it more than I have been in past years because I actually get to have adult child-free nights at the racetrack where I don't have to be the last one to show up and the first one to leave. And I actually get to hang out after the races and maybe have an adult beverage after the races. And what?
When are
What,
you the
Jessup?
last when are you the last one to show up to the track?
This
You
is true.
typically make me late.
Oh, no, no, no,
So,
no, 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 no. You said last one to show up.
I know we haven't dropped the green flag yet, but this definitely deserves a caution. Because in multiple situations, Becca, I am way later than you going to a racetrack.
Same.
all right, this is fair.
Mason, get it out.
I- It's an
Mason.
unofficial caution, but yes. I'm doing well myself. I got to spend time at the Pelkey Palace today, hang out with Riley. We had a great old time. So thank you for letting me stay at your place this weekend. And so looking forward to this weekend. I'm going to try to go on tour for a couple races myself, and we'll see what else happens throughout the weekend. But we want to thank you listeners and watchers out there of the Track Packers podcast. Been getting a lot of comments and feedback lately, so greatly appreciate the support. Want to give a shout out to the Rankies, Nate and Zach for checking us out, the Satrins, Lon and Candy, and Jim Pierce as well. So thank you guys for watching and or listening to the show. And thank you to our sponsor, Hitch Harness, with Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota. Thank you so much, Tyler, for supporting us over the last few years. John, would you like to share with the fans at home what Hitch Harness is and what products they provide?
Yeah, so Tyler does a great job with his business and marketing tools and everything else with accessories for trucks, as well as the most important thing, which is protecting that hitch. So you do not want to have the hitch roll around in the back of the truck, be unprotected, fall out, and create a liability for somebody that could come back and bite you. So we definitely do not want that to happen. Tyler has some great items and tools that are within his website at hitchharness.com that you could check out to help you with a variety of products on his site. So be sure not to be like Jessup. See, Jessup was like the hitch. He just left the vehicle. Be sure you can protect that hitch and keep it within your truck bed through hitchharness.com.
Well said, John, and thank you once again, Tyler, for supporting us on the podcast. As you can see the lineup, no change from last week. After a thorough
Whoa.
review, the lineup is the same. Becca's on the pole, John to the outside pole, myself in third, and Jessup bringing up the tail of the field. As my cat is scratching the ever-living heck out of the couch. So, with that, we will officially start episode 16 with the waving or drop, depending on how you interpret it, of the green flag, and get right into who or what we are repping, and starting with the pole sitter, Miss Becca Pelkey.
So the guys got me all worked up earlier, so I'm sure everyone saw what I'm wearing. But I am wearing last year's Dakota Classic Modified Tour because this weekend is the start of the 36th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So this is last year's design, and then it has a sweet design on the back as well with the top 10 in the points for both modifieds and stock cars. And I saw a sneak peek of this year's shirt, and it looks just as super cool as this one. So I have a feeling Mod Tour shirts will also sell out at various tracks along the tour. And so if you're able to make it to a race on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, I would highly recommend to get your shirt right away because they're probably going to sell out if you wait till intermission or the end of the race. So definitely go get your shirts right away because I think they're going to sell out at the racetracks pretty quickly. So this year's or sorry, last year's the Dakota Classic was one of my shirt. So
Excellent shirt, Becca. I missed out on getting one of those shirts last year, so hopefully I'll be able to snag one this year. We'll move to John Breckel.
Wow.
Who or what are you repping?
Mason, I am repping a driver that came on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour for the first time last year and visited us up here in the northern states and also went into Canada. That is Jay Schmidt, the 19J IMCA stock car. And Jay's got some of the nicest paint schemes out there. So the back of the shirt is really nice. It's got Jay's paint scheme from a few years ago. And he has got a hot looking car here for 2025. And I believe he might be coming on the tour again this year. So that might be a fun little addition to a great field of IMCA stock cars already signed up for the 36th annual Walla Trucking and Oil Fields Dakota Classic Modified Tour.
Excellent.
See,
I
Jessup,
love
Jessup, I actually say the right name for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour for the 36th annual, unlike somebody who's affiliated with the tour.
Jessup, you look like you wanted to say something.
See, Jessup, that's why I almost threw a caution flag on that individual.
Rules for thee, not for me. There's
So,
a conspiracy in here, John.
so that Jay Schmidt shirt, I really like it because I love the caption on it as well.
Do you now,
Yes.
Mason? Do you?
Yes. You know, Mason wore one of these shirts earlier, I think, in a podcast. I think it was back in 2024, though, in one of our later episodes for 2024. I do think the blue fits me a little bit better for, like, just bringing out the color of my eyes and especially my hair color as well. So But yes,
enhances
the
the
caption
tint
on
of
the
the
shirt is
forehead.
very nice.
Blue probably does look better on you, John.
It does. So it depends. If I wear blue, then I usually have my blue lenses on for glasses for my frames. If I wear like a black shirt, then it's usually black lenses.
Okay. Fun facts with John today.
Ah,
Excellent shirt. I'll go next. I think this shirt is very fitting for the last week or couple weeks. This
Is
is
it a
to you of KCU
really?
status.
Oh yeah.
Not my first race NATO, going green. And with the way
Reds.
the last couple of weeks have gone, particularly up in North Dakota and western Minnesota, the weather has been very interesting to say the least. And also fitting because Casey picked up a big win this past weekend, which we will talk about just a little bit later on in the show. So, repping the 2U, Casey says with his Race NATO shirts because he's an avid lover of storms. Think he goes storm chasing just a little bit. Hopefully, he hasn't been
Mhm.
doing too much of that the last couple weeks because he's had plenty of opportunities to do so.
No doubt.
Well, I'm going to throw caution on Mason. He has not had any opportunities to go tornado chasing because all the tornadoes have been happening over the weekends, and he's been racing.
But they've been having storms in their immediate area too, where he lives.
That is true, but still, caution. Go to the back. Be gone.
I don't think so. But you
Of
can
course you
finish out.
don't.
I'll let you finish out the
You're the
segment.
sanctioning body.
I'll let you finish out the segment.
Okay, Brian France. Is it my turn?
It is.
It is.
Interesting. Well, I'm wearing a World of Outlaws hat, and I'm wearing a new Brian Shirley green shirt. I like it. It's very colorful, which is I don't really wear a lot of pink in my shirts, but I like this one. And the back is his number 8 late model. And I picked it because there's a color shirt I don't have a lot of, if any of. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. I do
Jeez.
think pink looks good on you, whether you believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. You're funny, Mason. Continue on with the show, Brian.
I do find myself funny at certain points as well. But
Mm-hmm.
that'll do it for who or what we are repping for episode 16, and we'll move right into the hot sauce hot memory rewind and give a shout out to the number 12S IMCA modified driver and 104 stock car on occasion, Isaac Sondrol out of Turtle Lake. Raced this past Sunday at the Nodak Speedway as part of the support class for the World of Outlaws. Got a 12th place finish, but there's a lot of heavy hitters in that race. So he was just perfectly content just to race with the World of Outlaws in attendance. And so if you see him, I believe he'll be going on tour. Hopefully, the Snack Shack is also going on tour as well. So be sure to stop down in the pits, check out what food he has, talk with him. One of the nicest people to talk to, him and his family. Thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast as well. So, Jessup, I'll let you start this off with your selections for the hot sauce hot memory rewind.
Well, you guys rushed me, so I went with a different division this week than what I had wanted to. Yeah, actually, I think this is a no. I have 2 divisions here, but we'll see what happens. All right, so remember, folks, name the year, name the driver, and you guys get to name the division in this one.
That is a Wasota Superstock, and
Yep,
that is Paul Schultz from 2003.
I was going to
very
say
good
Paul
job.
Schultz.
That was an easy one. I just wanted to give you a chance. All right.
That is a Wasota late model,
Yep.
and its number is 37.
Yep.
And it's also from 2003.
Yep.
Mason, you get to pick the driver.
I'm going to guess Scott Ward.
Mason is correct. So we had
Look at
2.
that, Mason. See, sets you up perfectly.
That is the only 37 I can recall right off the top of my head.
This would also be from probably 2003.
Yep, you guys have the year correct.
That would be Robert Schaefer.
Yes, it would. Also known as Bob, but we'll accept Robert.
Where is
Yes,
the number on that car?
The
it's
number
the
is
Bud car.
Bud. The Bud
It's the
car.
Bud car.
Interesting.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
kind
also
of a
from
fun one.
2003. And it's a Wasota Superstock. And you know what's funny about this, Jessup? I just almost used that car for my hot sauce hot memory rewind.
Really?
Yep.
That's funny. That's pretty cool.
We used to
Wow.
saw him come up to the Stampede each year.
Hmm.
Schaefer used to come up almost every single year back in the early 2000s. That's how I know who that is.
Alrighty. Do you have any
By the
more,
way, Jessup,
Jessup?
I just want to prove that we got all those right. We were 100%. So, Mason, good job.
Why didn't you let Becca answer?
And Becca, way for contributing.
Okay. I
And that
have
is a
two of them.
coordinator, folks.
I have
Okay.
two of them. I want Becca to be the first one to guess this first one, okay?
Okay.
Scott Jordan. I can't see it.
It's coming up.
Why aren't you sharing?
That's Quentin Kinsley.
That is
Oh.
correct.
That is Quentin Kinsley.
And what year is that, Becca?
I want to say 2013.
I think that's correct. I think I got this out of a 2013 album.
Pretty sure that's right. Yep.
Nice work. I like the Jessup scheme.
I would agree.
I'll give Quentin one thumbs up.
I think you
One.
should have kept the Jeff Gordon-esque number, but that's just me.
Gee, why don't you just lob it in any easier for her? Kinsley Farms, 24Q.
I mean, Jessup, we have to make things easy at times.
I didn't remember that scheme that Quentin had, so that's why I kind of picked it.
I don't know any of these people, so I'll say it. Looks like Minot.
It is Minot. We may
Scott
have had
Jordan.
this scheme before, but
Ron Jordan.
it's
John
not,
Jordan.
it's not Ron Jern.
Mason, that wasn't Spencer Wilson, was it?
It is not Spencer Wilson. That is a great guess. This driver races, but not in the hobby stocks anymore, currently.
Which one?
The one on the inside, the yellow and red car.
Have I seen this person?
You have seen this person.
Did they race last night?
No, they did not race last night.
Were they there last night?
They were definitely there last night.
It's Justin Small's Mether.
Yes.
That is correct. Justin Smalls Miller in the
Who's on the
75.
outside?
That is Dallas Rice in the 72 machine.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like Dallas is 72 on the front of it, because I remember his car back in the day.
Yep.
Good job, Mason. You finally picked some drivers from Minot that I was aware of.
He always likes
It's
to pick
difficult to
ones
do.
that we've never seen.
We are so proud of you. Okay, guys, I've got 3.
Good. But did you name the year?
Here comes the first one.
$70.
Do they still race?
Yes.
Oh, dang it. That wrecked my guess.
Well,
Host body and paint. Okay. I don't.
They are a track champion in this division at Jamestown.
current?
He still races currently.
He's not
My guess
current.
was Josh
In an
Anderson
orange car
originally.
as Becca's looking him up online.
What? I'm not doing anything.
Ugh.
Can't believe you would suspect that of me. Rude.
Has-
She'd have to dig to find this anyhow.
Did they still have the same number?
No.
What's their
They
current
still
number?
have part of this current number.
Billy Caro.
Yes, it is Billy Carroll.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow, what a pull for me.
Yes,
I've never even
yes,
seen that
Jessup.
car.
Jessup, we're proud of you. Okay, next one.
Nothing's happening.
It
Waiting,
didn't
John.
switch.
Yes,
Oh, it didn't switch. Okay, well here, let me stop sharing. I'll reshare.
I'm waiting.
Sorry, guys.
It's Billy Carroll
thought it-
again.
I thought it
Billy Carroll.
switched. Here you go.
119.
Derek Bush.
Yes, it is Derek Bush.
I'm like, it's a bush.
So
I just
Chad, it
gotta
was Derek.
figure out which one.
Yep, it was Derek.
Oh,
I
I
had
wouldn't
to
have
throw it
known
in there
racing.
that.
with Mason doing the throwback to the stock car because right now Isaac is running the Bush stock car
Yes.
with the throwback to Nick Schultz. So yes.
Yep.
Okay, so and here comes the last one. This is a driver that Becca knows quite well and has had multiple thoughts of this driver
What?
Jerry
and
Lamb.
opinions on this driver as well.
Uh-oh.
Old man Jerry Lamb.
Yes, it is. And what year is this, guys?
Holy crap, I had it before I even...
1999?
Becca, you were really close.
98.
It's 98.
That's at Red River Valley Speedway, isn't it?
That is, yep, that's at Fargo.
That's a half mile.
Yes, it is. The old black dirt half mile.
That's a nice car.
Great additions to the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind, John. That'll do it for this week, and we'll move on to the Track Pack Report. I'm going to start with you three just to kind of give your little recap of your adventures from Friday once again.
Wow.
Yeah, let's talk about Friday. Jessup, you start on Friday because you got the whole
I got the
shebang
party started.
right away. Yep, you got the party started.
So Dakota Speedway decided to cancel, which was the right decision because it's not ideal putting your fans and racers in jeopardy when there's tornado warnings around the track. And I decided, with McQuaid's coming up, which is a big softball tournament, our team decided to go do batting practice, which I partook in over in Mandan. I think it was Fort Lincoln. We were over on one of their fields, and we were just finishing up, and we noticed some weird looking clouds way off in the distance. And one of my players is like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's a cloud, dummy. What do you think it is?" And he's like, "No, the thing that's coming out of the sky." And he's pointing up at the top of it. And I'm like, "That's just the top of the storm's the supercell. It's not a big deal." Well, then we looked. He's like, "No, look at the bottom of it." And I looked down at the far end, and it's about 40 miles out. There's a tornado, and I'd never seen a tornado before, so I was pretty stoked. So that was about, what would you say, Becca? 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
right around
Yeah,
right around
Mm,
7, give or
probably
take a half hour.
probably 8. I would say around 8
Riley was
Okay,
still, I don't
yeah,
know.
about 8.
because the
Yeah,
storm started popping right around 7-ish because we were at the little cottage around that time.
I would say about 7:45, 7:45, 8, whatever. That doesn't really matter. So that was the first tornado I saw of the day. It's also one of the first ones reported of the day. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll go home. And I got stopped over at one of the events at McQuaid's at the softball tournament. There was going to be a home run derby, and there we were contemplating entering, and we were like, well, okay, maybe not, maybe not. And I'm sitting there with my buddy, and we're looking around, and I'm watching another storm just north of town is just blowing up. And I was like, well, I don't really feel like staying here. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. And I point up at the top of it. I go, you see that up there? He goes, yeah. I'm like, that's the inflow of the storm getting sucked in. He goes, what's that supposed to mean? That's not good. And seeing how it's starting to take them like circular form, I'm like, it looked like it's starting to rotate the whole supercell. He's like, well, is that bad? I'm like, yes, that is not that's not good. I'm going home. So on the way home, I'm calling John, and John's north of the or just by the interstate, which is north of us. And John's telling me I had seen the front of the storm had a wall cloud. I'm like, John, is there anything happening? He's like, no, there's nothing happening on the front side. So I keep driving, and a couple minutes later, John goes, this thing's about to drop something. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, well, you said the front, the wall cloud dissipated. No, the one on the back blew up and dropped down. And so I get home and I'm watching on the weather deck, which is what I named our deck because I have a great view over a field. And we see a tornado. I sent John a photo. I'm like, hey, it looks like it's starting to drop. And John goes, yep, it just dropped, but I think it's going back up. So it went back up. So I'm still out on the deck watching this. I'm like, John, it's back. It's huge. And
In the
John's like,
middle of
what?
this, the
It's gone.
sirens
And I'm
started
like,
going off. The sirens
it's
started
gone.
going
And I'm
off in the
like,
middle of this.
go outside and look. It's coming right for you.
Yeah, so in the middle of this, so the first time around, right? So the second storm, the first one that Jessup talked about, where the wall cloud that we had seen, it had a section on it that looked kind of like a wedge in the back end of the storm. And you could see that from the back of our house because we're, like Jessup said, right on I-94. And the back of our house is the Shields complex, that is the football field, the softball diamonds right behind Shallow School. So we're right in that area in Bismarck. So behind that, it's like an open field, right? There's houses back there, but it's very open, so you can see. And we were looking, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't look good." And my mom's like, "Yeah, that's gonna drop." I'm like, "Yeah, that's gonna drop." And in a matter of only about a minute after that, the sirens started going off, and my mom headed downstairs. So my mom's downstairs in the basement, and I was on my way down to the basement as I put my phone down and was grabbing some stuff and moved it into my room, came back to grab my phone to go downstairs because the sirens were going off, and that's when I saw Jessup's message that said, "It's back." And I went to the back window and I'm like, "Oh my God. Yep, it was full on down to the ground. You could see it as plain as day out the back door. Probably 8 to 10 miles north of us, probably somewhere in that range. But it was very visible at that time. And I yelled, I said, Mom, I said, it's right behind the house. And yep, so she came up and we watched it for the matter of probably like 3 to 4 minutes before it had roped out and went back up and dissipated. But yes, sirens were going off. You could see the tornado as plain as day behind the house. And it is I've seen two tornadoes behind our house now. That's the second one. And my mom's seen three. And overall, yeah, I don't need to see any more back there. They can they could be someplace else.
I just think it's funny that Midwesterners are like prairie dogs.
We are.
When the weather gets bad, instead of going into the hole, we pop our heads out. We're like, "Oh, what's that? I gotta look. I have to look.
We are very curious people.
Look, it's destroying the house next to me. I think I should stay out and look at it some more."
And then you had other family members that we know from race car drivers, right? That we know that live kind of over in that Minokan area, who actually
Yeah.
did get very close to getting hit by the tornado in Minokan, which luckily they did not get hit, but it jumped their house essentially is what ended up happening, and missed them on Friday. But yeah, so Mason, this has been back-to-back Fridays to where we have not been at a racetrack, but we have been storm chasing.
What's a racetrack? I don't know what that means on a Friday.
Especially on a Friday lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting to watch your video photos and videos, and I'll put a couple in the show here because there's some crazy pictures and videos. I mean, clear shot of that tornado.
Yep.
Well, glad that you all were safe, and I didn't really hear about too much damage with these tornadoes, so that's
There
also
wasn't
good.
really a whole lot of damage per se with these ones. Luckily, they were more rural areas, to where they kind of missed homes and farms and all of that stuff. To where last week's were more of the long track large tornadoes. Last week Friday over in the east, and the atmosphere was just ripe for it. To where over here it was more the kind of it would spout them down, but they weren't long track. It was more they were on the ground for a couple of minutes and then they would go back up. They'd redevelop. They'd hop back down for a couple of minutes and then they would go back up. So luckily there wasn't really anything from damage that I heard a whole lot of around our area, even down to Lytton, because I know Lytton had one by them. Steel, I think, had one south of them too, but I didn't really hear anything from damage.
Well, that's a good thing. Hopefully, we're done with tornadic activity for a good while. Like, we could use a break from all these crazy storms. My Friday wasn't as chaotic, although I was kind of watching the weather myself because I went down to the Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen, and you could kind of see the storms in your guys' area off to the north, and then there was also one or two that was to the south of Aberdeen, so we're kind of in the middle of this kind of mess. And it's like, well, we'll see how much of the race night we get in. And they had a special treat on hand. They had the sprint cars on hand, the NOSA series and the Midwest Sprint Touring series on hand. So quite a few sprint cars made the trek down there. And so got it started a little late. They were trying to work the track in after hot laps. And so we kind of got started a little bit later on in the program. But ended up being a good night of racing with the sprint cars on hand, along with the Midwest mods, street stocks, modifieds, and super stocks. And Midwest Modifieds kicked off the action where Dawson Zabel picked up the feature win in front of Ryan Flon from Madison, Minnesota, making his first trip over there this year. And Ryan Ost in the 24X was your third place finisher. Pretty low key race, not too much crazy activity happening in the Midwest mods. Same in your street stocks. Matt Goth was started on the pole, and he was holding off several charges from the 20 junior Jaden Bogue, even with Jaden all over his back bumper. He stayed calm, cool, and collected to get the feature win. Bogue ended up in second, and Kyle Bertram in the 19X was your third place finisher. Sprints were next on the lineup because we did have weather sort of in the area. So they moved the sprint cars up in the lineup. Had some really heavy hitters as far as sprint car names go. We had Tim Kading, Jack Dover, Mark Dobmeyer, who we know very well up here in North Dakota. So they were kind of the three big horses of the race, and they blistered around the Brown County Speedway. They were fun to watch whipping through lap traffic because they would hit lap traffic within like 3 or 4 laps. And so things got crazy for a couple moments, but Tim Kading pretty good with lap traffic. And so he got the feature win in front of Jack Dover and Mark Dobmeyer. Tim Kading did some really cool donuts in a sprint car on the front straightaway, so he definitely put on a show for the Rays fans. And I think he said in Victory Lane he's been waiting all year to do that. So got a cool treat down in Aberdeen with the sprint cars. And modifieds were the last race completed because some rain moved in before the super stocks were to hit the track, so they'll do their feature at a later date. But modifieds put on a great show. We had Caden Schmeling and Adam Brotherton going side by side for the last several laps, exchanging the lead at several points. That was a really good race. Caden Schmeling ended up getting the feature win on a last lap pass after he lost it with like 3 to go in front of Adam Brotherton. So very good race to end the night, and hopefully the super stocks will get their makeup race in here soon. But they have a couple big weekends coming up down in Aberdeen as well. And so that was your Friday night recap. Saturday was a little bit of an adventure for me. I know John had a little bit of adventure too, because I know you were originally planning to go over to the Norman County Raceway for the World of Outlaws.
That is correct. We were about halfway there to Norman County before we made the decision to turn back around after dealing with tornadic weather on Friday. We had heard about some landspouts that were north of us that were heading kind of in the direction of Ada, and we're like, yeah, we're not going to deal with this tonight. So we went back home.
Yeah, and from what I gathered, I mean, well, to go on to my thing, I was actually leading towards going to Norman County because that morning it looked like the forecast was best for Norman County, but it changed so much throughout the day with like pop-up storms and everything like that. And so my mind had changed like 2 or 3 different times. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to go to Greenbush. This is like at 3 o'clock. So I make my way towards Greenbush, and I get about 55, 60 miles from the track, and I see this storm, and I'm like, I wonder how close that storm is to Greenbush. Well, for one, it turned into a severe storm just in the north of Greenbush, and then it turned into a tornado warning. And I'm like, nope, we're not dealing with this. So I turned around, and I went to Devil's Lake for the Cliff Reeves Memorial, because that was the safest option at that point. Somehow Greenbush got the whole race night in. I have no idea how. Everything just, I think they got a little bit of rain, but missed on like a funnel cloud going past them. So kudos to them for getting that program in. I'm like, I am not dealing with that. And kudos to the Norman County Raceway because they got their program in after a couple of rain showers as well.
They did.
So that just tells you how wacky the weather has been the last couple of weeks. So over at Devil's Lake, Cliff Reeves Memorial was the main ticket on hand, but they also had Pure Stocks, their non-wing sprint cars, the Western Renegade non-wing sprint car series, and Legends make it a rare appearance at the Devil's Lake Speedway. So different kind of layout for the night. Pure Stocks kicked it off with Joe Armstrong, one of the dominant Pure Stock drivers up in Devil's Lake. He got the win in front of Tate Bullis and Riker Vetter, making the trip up from Wishick. In your non-wing sprint cars, it was Miles Tomlinson, the 15T, grabbing the feature win in front of Parker Valandry and Steve Nordrum. Miles, one of the top Renegade drivers up there, and so not a big surprise to see him in victory lane as well. The Legends had a fun battle because you had a mix of drivers from out west and then some drivers from out east. Of course, you have Hollywood Ty Wilkie, one of the perennial front runners that we know. We had Dustin Hagen and Ryan Erdahl also in the mix, and those three put on a pretty good show. They were like within a car length, 2 car lengths the entire race, and the groove was around the bottom, but if you made one little mistake, someone was going to be right there to capitalize. But Ty Wilkie didn't make any mistakes, got the feature win. Dustin Hagen, great run in second. Ryan Erdahl in third. Rylan Vetter, great run for him, 11th to 4th. So good run for the 29V. And then in your street stocks, $1,004 to win. Great race, great battle. Trey Hess and Cole Gresseth were kind of the early front runners duking it out and had a couple of early cautions. And the guy that was hooking the bottom, the 2U, KCU Status, got the bottom working and passed them both. And then he kind of set sail. It was a long race. It's like a 30-lap race. Had a caution with 3 to go. And so, of course, nerves were probably getting to Casey at that point and a lot of the fans in the stands. But kudos to Katie, or Casey, I should say. Why did I say Katie? Probably a combination of Casey and Usatis. You can go ahead and throw a caution. I will give you permission to do that.
We've said his name so much.
I don't know.
We were talking about tornadoes, and it's Casey, the tornado wrangler.
Yes. Anyways.
Aren't you wearing his shirt?
I am wearing a shirt.
He is, but he's wearing Katie's.
I don't know why I said Katie. That was so weird. No idea where that
Definitely deserve a caution
Mason,
that one, Mason.
Mason, you caught it right away, so I don't think you need a caution.
No,
Becca, we don't need to hear from you tonight.
You're not a rule decider.
Yeah,
Becca.
Yeah, Becca, we don't need to hear from you. You've already had your own fair share of cautions that have not been called on you.
Well, this show does go through a thorough review, so we'll see what the review committee says. Anyways, KCU Satis picks up the big win at the Cliff Reeves Memorial. Cole Gresseth ended up in second. Corey Dykoff, all the way from Perham, Minnesota, finished in third. And that was your night at the Devil's Lake Speedway. And then Sunday. Sunday was a fun adventure as 3 of us got to go on an adventure. I came from Fargo, picked up Jessup in Lincoln to head up to Minot, and John also went up to the Nodak Speedway for the World of Outlaws. First appearance since 1989 for that series. And gosh, who should I start with? Jessup, I'll start with you. What were your expectations going into this race, first of all?
My expectations were pretty open. I mean, I was happy to see there was only 2 classes rather than 4 or 5 for the night. So I was pretty excited about that. I was pretty happy with the mod car count. I was a little bummed. I was hoping at least 24 late models, but going into the night, I was pretty excited, and finally got to see one of the competitors said that they were there just to see real race cars race at the track. Mason, am I lying?
It's hard to argue with when a fellow competitor says that, right, as we walk into the pit area.
Yep. So that was exciting. So it was a good night. I was expecting a good night. And a big crowd was something I was expecting, but I was kind of overwhelmed with how many people they got there. There was a lot of people, more than any other race I've seen there. So that was really good.
Some people would say, Jessup, that crowd was quite large.
Quite large, yes.
Indeed, it was a large crowd. John, what about you? What was your experience at Nodak like on Sunday?
I was excited to see the World of All LA models. I have seen them a couple times before, and they've always put on a really good show. And Sunday was no different. They put on a great show up in Minot at the Nodak Speedway. It was also nice to see late models back at Nodak. It's been a couple of years since I've seen late models up at the Nodak Speedway in Minot, so it was nice to see them back over there as well. Great field of mods. a lot of travelers in the mods, which was very nice to see. Kind of a prelude a little bit to what we're going to see here upcoming this weekend with the tour starting. So that was kind of cool to see. And then overall, it was just a really fun night, a really good race in the late model feature event. So that was a great way to cap the night. Track was in outstanding condition. Crowd was fired up. There was a lot of people there.
Yeah, I was really excited myself. I got several questions throughout the weekend when I was at other tracks for like, you weren't going to the World of Outlaws in Grand Forks or Ada? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna at least attend one World of Outlaw race. And I'm like, the one for sure I want to hit up is Nodak Speedway. That's where I grew up watching races from when I was a young kid. I wanted to see them there for sure. And if I attended another World of Outlaw race throughout the weekend, so be it. I was gonna do that on Thursday, but in I-94, but unfortunately they ran out for like the third year in a row, I think, with that date. But awesome race, good car count in the IMCA modifieds. They kind of were the kickoff to the feature races with very fast and very heavy track. So they started, I think 27. I think 27 ended up making the call for the start out of the 28 that were slated to start. And so very fast track. Only I think one caution. So good job to the drivers for running a pretty clean race. Stephen Pfeiffer started on the pole. Had a couple of challenges from Brady Biella, Travis Hagen, and Jason the Big Show Wall, but starting up front on a track was very beneficial. So Stephen Pfeiffer picked up the feature win in the IMCA modifieds. Brady Biel in the 99 from Williston finished in second, and Travis Hagen ended up in third. And kind of a, like John said, a little prelude to the Dakota Classic Modified Tour coming up here in this week. And then we get to the 50 lap late model race for the World of Outlaws. Believe it was Bobby Pierce and Ethan Dotson on the front row, with Ethan Dotson, former winner on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, right at Nodak Speedway. So one of the few drivers in the field who had experience around the racetrack, and he led the majority of the first half to 2/3 of the race, and things got a little crazy with about 10 to 15 laps to go as the track started to widen out a little bit, and drivers are using different lines, using the bottom. I was watching Tim McCready and Ryan Gustin. They were the two of them that were working the bottom. And then Jessup kind of explained what happened with about 8 laps to go.
Well, I think it was closer to 12, wasn't it, John?
No, it was about 9 to 10. Yep. It was about 8 laps to go when the pass happened.
Well, all sorts of things happened. Somebody went high, somebody went to the middle, another person decided to sneak low, and all of a sudden, Tim McCready was your leader coming out of 4.
Yeah. They went 3 wide down the front straightaway, McCready down low, Bobby Pierce in the middle, who had just thrown a slider in 1 and 2. Dotson crossing him back over, so he was on the high side, and they were 3 wide going past the flag stand, and it was nuts. And I could hear usually I can't really hear the crowd too much behind me, but I could hear the crowd on that 3 wide pass because that was pretty nuts.
Mason, it was me.
Well, it was John. John was standing. That's where we got the ultimate John.
Yeah, John went ballistic those few laps.
It was a good time.
John
was a kid in a candy store the whole time.
I'm truly a true-on, full-on race
Something's
fan
happening.
when I'm in the grandstands without announcing.
He's going to throw a run at him.
Actually, even announcing-wise, I'm kind of that way too sometimes. I just hide it pretty well.
You though?
Yes.
I mean, Becca has seen me in the Dakota Speedway Tower.
Yes, you do hide it well. If you're right next to him, you could definitely tell John is fanning out a little bit, but behind the mic or just hearing him, hides it pretty well. So yeah, Tim McCready made that pass with just about 7-8 laps to go. He started 12th, so he started way back and had to do a lot of work to get up to the front. And he went on to get the feature win. Bobby Pierce, the smooth operator, finished in second, and Nick Hoffman in the 9 finished in third. And Bobby Pierce ran like the last 2/3 of the race with no brakes.
No brakes. Yep, lost brakes about not even halfway through, only a couple laps in. And then they were completely gone by the time he hit about lap 10.
That would not be the track I would want no brakes at.
No, and that makes more sense why on the restarts he was kind of a little bit timid on the restarts more than even on the regular running of the track, because probably could build up momentum and just kind of use that. But on the restarts, you could definitely tell he just was not fully up to where he couldn't attack as much on the restarts as probably what he wanted to.
Mhm. But yeah, great race. Hope they make a return visit to the Nodak Speedway. Definitely a really fun race and fun night for all of us. We tend to have a lot of fun at the races when we don't have really any duties.
What's that? Being at races without duties.
Yeah, it's a good
See, we
point.
could just be a fan.
What's a fan?
Something that we don't do enough of these days.
We don't get to be a very much.
No.
No,
But that was entertaining.
I would agree. I would agree. Very entertaining, fun night. Would love to. We need to have a racing trip again. Well, we did have one scheduled. My
Yeah.
bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My
I'm not
bad,
happy
even though
with you on this one, but that's okay.
I
For
didn't have
that, you
much
know what?
control
For
over
that, you
that.
get another caution and you go to the back.
No, I should throw a caution on my former employer. Actually, my former employer actually deserves this. We'll just leave it at that. But that'll do it for this week's Track Packer Report. And we will move on to what's upcoming next in the state of North Dakota with Mr. Dakota Dirt.
Did you know, race fans, you can check out schedules, results, weather forecasts, and much more on Dakota Dirt. They are social on social media platforms as well as their website at dakotadirt.org. They may even, I know, you have to hold your pantyhose here. They may even go through and do an article one of these days. I
It's
know
not
I'm
going to
just
be
as
for a
surprised as
while.
all of you. But again, check them out at dakotadirt.org.
It's not going to happen today either, John. But once Riley can talk and be self-sufficient, maybe. Until then, it's going to be a while.
Nathan, you're
Anyways,
gonna have so much fun editing this show tonight.
Yes, I am.
anyways, it's going to be a pretty busy week, couple weeks here, Mason. Starting on the 2nd, River Cities is racing. That looks to be Wednesday night for the
It is.
Wayne Anderson Cup, which someone has to explain to me how that works. Is it like a multiple nights points accrued or finishing kind of like we do with a Gov Cup or something? But NOSA sprint cars, WISSOTA street stocks, WISSOTA mid mods, WISSOTA late models, and WISSOTA modifieds over at the River City Speedway on Wednesday night, the 2nd. Then on the 3rd, it's the McLean County Speedway Racing, Independence Special with IMCA stock cars, sport mods, hobby stocks, sport compacts, Western Renegades, and the NX Legends. Then on to Friday, the 4th, a couple tracks racing. Nodak Speedway will have their 4th of July special with the hobby stock, sport mods, the sport compacts, the Western Renegade wingless sprints, the slingshots, and the semi-pro NX Legends. And then over on the Jamestown Speedway, they got their fireworks spectacular with the IMCA mods, WISSOTA Streets, WISSOTA Mid Mods, NX Legends, the Hobby Stocks, Bomber Division, whichever you prefer to call them, and the Slingshots. And they should have a nice fireworks show at both of those events if the weather is up to snuff. It's looking like we're going to be in another wait and see holding pattern for that day. But it's also the big 4th of July parade day, as Mandan will be having a parade. You'll see most of the track packers along with Riley and her little Corvette. Will be in the parade there. Mason, I'm sure there's parades elsewhere around the state, but we'll be in one. So if you want to come give us a hard time or at least throw candy back at us, we'll be there. Then things really start getting rocking and rolling here as Saturday the 5th kicks off the Dakota Classic Modified Tour at the Jamestown Speedway at 7 p.m. with the IMCA stock cars and the IMCA Modifieds. Thunder Mountain will be racing that night as well, as they will be having IMCA Sport Mods, IMCA Hobby Stocks, IMCA Sport Compacts, their Enduro class, and the Slingshots. And then Southwest Speedway will be hosting a late model special over there, along with IMCA Sports, IMCA Hobby Stocks, and NX Legends and Slingshots. Then on the 6th, they will be moving the Dakota Classic Modified Tour all the way over to the Nodak Speedway. 7 o'clock race time. It will be the modifieds and the stock cars. And then after that, I think they tear out the whole front stretch. So that's kind of a show after the show. And it's a really, I find that night is a really telling night of how the tour is going to go. You start to see your comers and goers for the week. And it's also a night that you can usually expect a pretty good party in the pits. And so that it's kind of a fun night. And that's right before we pack it all up and head north of the border to our friends at the Estevan Motor Speedway on Monday night. 7 p.m. race time there. This should be a good time if you all want to get across the border. Definitely a great place. A lot of friendly people there, a lot of nice people to work with, and really good racing there. So they know how to get some good racing done up at the Estevan Motor Speedway. After Monday, they pack it all up again and then go back south of the border, back into the States. And they will be headed over to the Williston Basin Speedway with the modified tour. Same two divisions as usual, the IMCA stock cars, IMCA modifieds. And this track is my wild card track of the tour. I've never had a boring night at Williston on the tour. And it's for one reason or another. I mean, there's the I what I want to say legendary, but it's usually a wild night. But you have the video of the mod flying through the fence into the parking lot. You've had one go airborne off a 3 and get stuck in the guardrails before landing. You've had storms go right over the top. I mean, when I was up on camera for IMCA TV many moons ago there, we had lightning right above us and we kept racing. And yeah, that track is wild, and you see things you never expect to see. So if you want an entertaining night, head over to Williston. And yeah, I enjoy that place. On Wednesday, they pack it up and go down to the Southwest Speedway, and same two division. And yeah, you got a good. That's kind of the backbreaker night, I think, of the tour. You usually get about 5 to 7 guys in each, the stock cars and the modifieds that you think will have a really good chance of winning. And Dickinson usually cuts out 2 to 3 guys for sure, and you get a real clear picture of who's going to be in the championship run going into the final night, which will be Thursday night at the Dakota Speedway. Different spelling than Dakota on the Classic Modified Tour. I don't know why, but someone will explain that to me one day. So Thursday night, championship night, mod tour. Be there. It'll be a great night. Drivers always seem to be happy there, so good night to end the tour. Other tracks racing is the Tri-County Speedway, as they have the Tri-County Fair, night number 1, with the Mary Vedder Memorial race going on there, along with the Midwest Mods, the Wissota Street Stocks, the NX Legends, and the Hobby Stock Division. Thursday night also has Cheyenne Speedway racing, as it looks to be a pretty regular night of racing there, Mason. I'm just going off of what I have from the beginning of the sport.
The regular classes plus IMCA race over sprints.
So should be a good night of racing there. Then going into Friday, at this point, I will be taking a nap, and it will be the Tri-County Speedway Night 2 of the Tri-County Fair with the Mary Vedder Memorial Tour. Uh, Not tour, challenge. There we go. With the Wissota Midwest Mods, Wissota Street Stocks, NX Legends, and the Hobby Stocks. And then River Cities will be racing as well, as they have the NOSA Sprints, the Wissota Lates, the Wissota Street Stocks, Wissota Midwest Mods, the IMCA 305 Sprints. And I think that's part of the Red River Series. It's a big
Yes.
week for them. I think it's a four-day weekend, so that'll be a
Following week, actually.
The
Sorry.
following weekend.
Is it?
Yep.
Yep, the following weekend.
Oh,
Yep.
good to know. Then looking at that Saturday, the 12th, Thunder Mountain's racing again. So they will have the IMCA Sport Mods, IMCA Hobby Stocks, IMCA Sport Compacts, the Enduros, and the Slingshots. Looking elsewhere in the state, Devil's Lake will be racing as they have Wissota Late Models, Wissota Mid Mods, Wissota Streets, the Pure Stock, and the Trophy class. Jamestown will also be in action, as is Saturday Night Thunder and Kids Night. IMCA Modifieds, Wissota Streets, Wissota Mid Mods, NX Legends, Hobby Stocks / Bomber Division. Again, your preference of what you want to call it. And Slingshots. And last but not least, Southwest Speedway will be racing that night as well as a makeup night so they can get a fuller season in after having a rough start to the season. The 13th, to close it out, is McLean County Speedway. They have IMCA Stock Cars, IMCA Sport Mods, IMCA Hobby Stocks, IMCA Sport Compacts, and the Western Renegade Sprints. And Mason, that's where I'm going to chop it off, as that's a lot.
That is a lot. Main thing is the Dakota Classic Modified Tour coming up this week.
Yep.
Should have some great travelers coming from across the IMCA landscape and should be a good show at each of the tracks. I'll quickly go over what's coming up outside the state of North Dakota, starting on Thursday, July 3rd. Cary Speedway, Rice Lake Speedway, and Victory Lane Speedway are all running. On the 4th, we actually have a lot of tracks. Brown County Speedway, Dead Horse Creek Speedway, I-94 Speedway. Cary is having a doubleheader, second night on Friday, and the Miller Central Speedway. On the 5th, Dead Horse Creek, second night of their doubleheader, Greenbush Race Park, Madison Speedway, Miller Central Speedway once again, North Central, and Viking Speedway, and I believe they have the UMSS High Roller Series. And then I'll just finish out the weekend with Bemidji Speedway on Sunday the 6th, along with Redwood Speedway. So your 4th of July weekend is looking jam-packed full of racing. So if you're not at the lake or not shooting off fireworks somewhere, head out to one of the racetracks, because there's plenty to choose from. We will now display the white flag and give a shout out to the B1 IMCA stock car Brody Carlsrud, who's been having some trouble getting some races in, but did get a race in this last Saturday at the Norman County Raceway, as they were the support class for the World of Outlaw late models there. Pretty solid run for the B1 IMCA stock car. So getting nice and set up for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, which he is going on tour once again this season. Be sure to follow his racing page for updates during the tour, Brody Carlsrud B1 Racing, and check out his podcast, The Real Deal with B1. So thank you, Brody, for your support on the podcast as well. Becca, you get to kick things off for wins of the week.
All right. My first one of the week will go to Austin Carruthers, who picked up his very first IMCA modified victory up at the Williston Basin Speedway this past weekend. Yeah, great victory up there, holding off big names like Travis Hagen. And yeah, so big win for Austin Carruthers. My next one of the week, I will give it to, how about the Nodak Speedway? I think they really impressed a lot of the guys on the World of Outlaws World of Outlaw late model tour. They had a lot of glowing reviews after the races on Sunday night, and yeah, I think they really impressed a lot of people, and they really just knocked that show out of the park. And they put a lot of hard work behind the scenes leading up to it, like they painted all sorts of things around the track. They washed a lot of the equipment. They really just made that place sparkle and shine. And all that hard work just really paid off. And so, yeah, I'm glad that they had a very successful show, a full grandstands, a full pit area, and yeah, overall, just a really good night of racing at the Nodak Speedway. First time since 1988. So glad to see them have a good show. And then I'm gonna give my last one of the week to Casey Asadis, who picked up the $1,000 win show up at the Devil's Lake Speedway for the Cliff Reeves Memorial. Uh, Sorry, Jessup.
Do you even know how many people he passed, Becca?
No, I don't.
Hmm.
Do you?
Yes, 5.
I think
I'm gonna
he
say he
started.
started sixth.
Yes.
So,
By the
yes.
way, I put a GoPro in Casey's car, so all of you out there that think that my GoPros are cursed, they had got multiple wins this season.
But I do want to bring up a point real quick while we're talking about curses. John, did you
Yes.
notice that it was basically a clear day up at Nodak, and then when a certain someone showed up, it began to sprinkle?
It did.
That's all I
I'll
wanted
also
to
add to
discuss.
that the same thing happened in Devil's Lake on Saturday.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it
At
was.
least we're getting full race nights in for the most part, even
You
though
were
Brown
helping
County
with
did
track
not
prep,
get completed.
Mason. You were just helping with track prep.
Yes, I was. We'll call it that.
Sure.
Anyways, great wins, Becca. John, go ahead. You're next.
Okay, so my first driver that is getting the win of the week is a driver that has visited Victory Lane again this season in the IMCA stock cars, and that is Daniel Aberly picking up the big win over in Ada on Saturday. And it sounds like Daniel will for sure probably be in Jamestown this upcoming Saturday for the tour. I'm assuming he might run a couple of tour events or maybe just runs Jamestown's event, but he's going to be tough to beat us. He's been having a really strong start to his season in that 33 IMCA stock car. So congratulations to Daniel Aberling. Then I'm going to go on the national tour circuit. And I have to give a big congratulations out there to Nick Hoffman for picking up multiple wins here and finishing all 3 nights that he got in up here on the Northern Swing for the World of Outlaws Tour for the lay models on the podium. He was on the podium each and every one of those nights with 2 wins and a top 3. So congratulations out there, Nick Hoffman, on a very successful week in the North Dakota and Minnesota area. And the final win of the week, it's going down over to the Brown County Speedway. And I am picking Tim Kading for picking up the win in the sprints down there on Friday night. So good run for Tim in that number 3 machine down there in Aberdeen at the Brown County Speedway.
Excellent set of wins. I will go next on my 3 wins. I don't believe Jessup will have these on his list, so I'll save one for Jessup. My first win is going to go over to Bemidji to Alex Berg in the 18B Wissota Pure Stock, picking up his first career win on Sunday night. So big congrats out to Alex Berg, holding off a very, very competitive field of Wissota Pure Stocks. My second win is going to go to Kylan Vargason, the 29 Wissota Midwest Modified. He got the Duggan Memorial Feature win up at the Greenbush Race Park, $700 to win, and I believe that's his second win on the season. So he's got his first and second win up at Greenbush this year. So big congrats out to Kylan in the 29, who's also a loyal listener of the show. And then just to go with the theme of the show, my third win of the week goes to the Greenbush Race Park for getting their race program in, with a tornado warning right to the north of them. I still don't know how they were able to complete that program, but because usually my luck, and from what I've seen on Snapchat with like Jory Burke, for example, anytime I go up there or he goes up there, there's usually a threat of weather. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay away from this. Those are
No
my
wonder they
three.
got the show in. Mason did not go over there during Saturday's program.
You all are welcome up in Greenbush.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jessup.
First win of the week goes to John Breckel. He came home with a record-setting number of shirts.
I
I
forgot
didn't
he was
know it
going
was
to do this.
possible, but John came home with 12 shirts from the t-shirt racks at Nodak, and he should be set for another couple weeks for new shirts. If you
And
need
for podcast material.
My next one goes to, I'm joking with that one, but it is funny. I'll go with Jeremy Meerhofer, who won the big Montana Madness show, and he went +9 to pick up the $5,000 win. I would also go to my next one would be Jake Smith, who picked up the $10,000 Summer Showdown Midwest Mod win out at Sheridan, and he advanced 4 positions. So after starting fifth, he got first. So that's pretty cool. I guess I would say my last one would be the wins goes to the Jamestown drivers who traveled to Nodak, and all of them made the feature. And a field of 36, all their drivers made the feature. Travis Trout finished fourth, which was a really good run for him. So he advanced 3 positions and moved his way through the field. Skylar Seekerson finished 10th and went +9, so that was really good. Talon Seekerson finished 16th, which is really good after going +4 as well. And John's mentioning that it was a brand new IMCA mod for Skylar, and it was that his first night in a IMCA mod. So if that is the case, I think it is. I just usually don't question Rain Man. That's really impressive. So hats off to Skylar. And then Ben Hunt raced his way in through the B main, and for his first time out to that track, this is a rookie year, a learning year. So he looked really good. He went +8 in the feature and stayed persistent to finish top 20. And Jacoby Trout made the feature as well. So all things considered, it was a really good night for the Jamestown drivers who made the tow all the way over to Nodak to help support that show.
Great win. Great win to finish out.
But the main one is still John Breckel taking home 12 shirts, a record
All
number,
those shirts.
and 12 that we know of. He
I was
might
like a
have
kid in a
more.
candy store.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine John around all those shirts when there's a sale going on.
I turned right into my mother.
So the last thing I want to do before we finish out the episode with the Dakota Classic Modified Tour right in our windshield, what are our predictions for champions in the stock cars and the modifieds? I'll be fair and I'll start with the lineup on the pole. Becca, who are your champions in the two divisions?
All right, I'm going to pull up my list.
Oh,
Uh,
she doesn't know off
um,
the top of her head.
it's this.
Oh, she doesn't even have them developed.
She's not ready. That is
I
a
actually
caution.
have been thinking about it. Uh, my champion will be Tom Berry Jr. I think he'll pick up the championship this year. He's raced up here. He knows these tracks. I think he'll run very strong this week. And so that's my champion in the modifieds. For the stock cars, there's so many good choices. This is so hard. I'm gonna go with Shelby Williams. He's come so close, and I think this could be the year that he finally pulls it off and gets that championship in the stock cars. So.
Alrighty. John, what's your predictions? You can
Okay,
I
so
don't I won't judge if you repeat any predictions, by the way.
So mods, I am going to go with. There's a lot of really good drivers that have signed up already for the mods, especially with just going on the tour posts that have come off from the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. But a driver that's always like in the top five area that always comes from out of town is Cody Laney. I'm going to pick him this year to be the modified champion. I think he's going to be very tough on the modified side. And then there's a lot of really good drivers in the stock cars that are upcoming again this year to the tour and coming up north. But one driver this year that I think is going to be very tough in the stock car division. I agree with Becca. I think Shelby Williams is going to be very tough, but I don't think Shelby's going to be the champion this year. I think he's going to have a really tough, hard fought battle within the stock car reigns. And you know what? I'm going to pick more on the local side. I am going to go with trying to think out here really quick on if I want to go east or west.
Mm.
I'm gonna go east side. I'm gonna pick the cheetah. I think Rob Van Mill's gonna get hot at the right time.
All righty. For my predictions in the modifieds, I'm going to go with the driver that hasn't raced a ton up here this season, but he's raced down in Iowa quite a bit and gotten several feature wins. Always a front runner. Colin Hibden, Kid Smooth in the 48K. That's going to be my pick for the tour this year in the modifieds. And again, stock cars, another class where it's like 10 to 12 could win on any given night. I think I'm going to go bold and pick Brock Beater.
Ooh, that's a good pick.
He's
He's
been
been really tough
super
this year.
good.
Mason, that's the guy that was on the west side for me. I was like, yeah, do I pick Brock or do I pick with like Rob? Because then you're gonna have like a lot of good runners from out of town come up too.
Well, and Brock's really good at like saving his equipment and having and being consistent and being there at the end of the race. So that's why I'm kind of like leaning towards him a little bit more. Go ahead, Jessup.
Well, for the sake of being different, I think for the mods, I'm going to have to go with the weekend warrior, Ricky Alvarado. He's been close the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the year he's going to push through. And for the stock cars, I had someone. If he races everything, I'm going to say Dan McIntyre. If Dan doesn't race everything, because they've been known to leave on Dakota the last night to head back home for points racing. If he doesn't, I will say Kyle Schulp.
That's a good one.
That's a good
And
one.
they have the drop a night thing, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep, you can drop one night. If there's a rain out though, that is your drop night.
Gotcha.
Who's the Gill guy?
So a variety of people.
So dark horses for me for tour
Yes.
picks.
Yes.
Right? Dark horses for me for tour picks. Braden Richards is the dark horse for me in the stock cars.
I'll be interested to see how he does up here as well.
Especially with being from Iowa, coming up for the first time. I know the Richard clan is really tough in the stock cars down there in Iowa area. He's going to be a fun one to watch. So I think he's going to be tough in the stock cars. For the mods on a local level, I know he hasn't signed up yet, but I'm assuming he's going to run the whole entire tour, and that would be Travis Hagan, a true dark horse. Just because of how tough he is on the local scene, and he's won in the tour multiple times with feature wins nowadays, and he's also been runner-up in points before. So I think he's kind of a staple in the top five of points the last couple of years in the mods, and I would say from a local level, he's probably going to be one that's going to be really tough.
Yeah, when you said dark horse pick, I'm like,
It's got to be Travis, right? I mean, it's a dark horse. Yep.
I think you also have to keep an eye on Troy Morris III. He has been very strong on the national scene, And he has had strong performances in the past on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So I think just with that added experience the last couple of years, I think he could be one to watch. And I think he could be a surprise and really surprise people with his strong performances on the tour. Um, so that'd be another one. And I'm glad to see Kelsey and Tanner Black are on tour. They have also picked up victories on in the past, or Tanner has picked up a victory recently on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. But Kelsey's she's won heat races and she's not shy to be run up front either. So I'm glad to see them come back on the tour. And then for the stock cars, other names that I'll be keeping an eye on is Andrew Jokum. He's gotten some victories over the Dakota Speedway. He's got victories out uh, east over in Fargo. So I think it'll be fun to see him travel on the tour. And then I told Jessup about Dan McIntyre because I also hope he'll run the whole tour. I think.
You didn't tell me anything about McIntyre.
Oh, I messaged you.
I don't read the messages because I'm on my phone and
oh, my
feel
bad.
like having my hand up here like this the whole time.
Okay, to be fair, I did message Dan, but so I'm glad you picked him. I think Jay Schmidt will be fun too. It's his retirement year. He's going out with a big bang by going on the tour as well. So I think it'll be fun to see him on the tour, and hopefully he does well.
We haven't even mentioned last year's stock car champion.
He's not
Cameron's,
having a strong season though.
but he's last year champion. They can always turn it around at this point of the year.
Right.
Kind of like Rob Van Mill. He hasn't been super strong this year either, but he could definitely turn it around too as we hit the tour time frame.
Yeah,
So,
Cameron Starry last year was kind of a big surprise for me.
yep. And honestly, guys, I know there's going to be several stock car guys that'll run maybe a night here or there on the tour. Um, One of the guys that, and you guys know where I'm going with this, and Mason, you know him really well. I know him really well. Um, it would be super fun to see one of our former Wasota Street Stock National champions that finished top 3 last year down at Super Nationals in the IMCA stock cars to go full-time on tour this year, and that would be Johnny Carter to go directly on tour because I think he would be a hard guy to beat on tour and to be right up there in the thick of the points championship for the stock cars.
I kind of wonder if so. I think Jamestown will by far have the most cars on the tour, just because you're going to get a nice mix of guys from out west and guys from out east come on race on Saturday night, the first night of the tour. And in the past, we've seen some of the guys from out east who have a very really strong start in Jamestown. Maybe they win the mod feature, the stock car feature. So then they're like, well, let's go to Minot, right? Well, then they also run well in Minot. Well, by then you're kind of in the points battle, so then they kind of get swayed into running the rest of the tour. I kind of hope that happens because those guys out east, they're strong, and I want to, and they just, I don't know, I don't exactly know why they don't always support the tour, but it's a great racing experience, and I hope more of those guys from out east will come on the tour, and if it takes running well in Jamestown and Minot to get them to do that, by all means, I hope that happens then. So.
For my dark horse picks, you got to take a look at Chaz Baca, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, former national champion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Becca Foos. And she's back.
Now she's back.
And I take a good look at him for the mods, and then in the stock cars, I mean, you got to look at Austin Doe and Gabe DeShaw. I think those are going to be some guys you're going to have to really keep an eye on. So the last thing I think we should bring up or bring to note, there is one driver I'm going to keep an extra close eye on this year because it's looking. Yes, John. Way to just jump on in. Go! It would
Did you
be
know, Jessup, it's
Hank.
also his retirement year, just like Jay Schmidt. They're going to go out together with retirement parties. We're going to throw them cake.
As I was saying, Mason, I look forward to watching Smoke and Hank Berry allegedly competing in his last Dakota Classic Modified Tour. He's, I think, the last guy to have raced every one so far. So it's a big deal as he goes out and competes in these final events, and it's a pretty cool deal that he's stuck with it all these years, and that's a pretty impressive feat to race a tour every year for how many years is it now, Becca?
36.
36.
36 years of racing in the same tour every year. There's not a lot of people who can do that. But wish Hank a wonderful Dakota Classic Mod Tour and really just soak in each night and enjoy it, good, bad, or otherwise. Just enjoy the whole scene and experience, and yeah, we're gonna lose a good one if this is his last year.
Yeah, this is going to be some really great racing this week. So if you're in North Dakota, head on out to one of these tracks for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. I cannot talk today. It's going to be a great week. Becca and Jessup, I know, are following the entire tour. John and I will hit up a couple nights at least. So we'll definitely be getting our fix in this upcoming week. With that, that'll do it for episode 16 of season 4 for the Track Packers podcast. As always, be sure to like, share, and comment. We'd love to know who's watching and or listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, The Real Deal with B1 Brody Carlsrud, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. Dakota Classic Modified Tour is here. 4th of July weekend is coming up, so happy 4th of July, and we will see you out there packing the track.